Recording in progress.
I'll call the September 9th Planning Commission meeting in order. All rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll open up to any public comment if anybody has anything to say. All right, if not, we'll move on to agenda review and adoption.
I'll move. Second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, move on to number 5, approval of the August 12th, 2024 minutes. Any comments or?
Move.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move on to new business. 6A, conditional use permit extension request from Summit Commons.
Yes, good evening, Planning Commission. So for your consideration this evening, Summit Commons has submitted a extension request for their conditional use permit. You'll recall this is the outdoor storage lot that is south of the Wobegon Trail. The CUP was approved by the council back in November and it will expire this November on the 6th. The owner has indicated that they will not be constructing the outdoor storage this year. There has been some improvements that have been made, so they the improvements that were made were tied to the screening and the landscaping. So they did get approval through the county and through the state to add coniferous trees along the northeast side of their lot. It's actually would be within the right-of-way of the trail in the county. So they did do that. A couple of factors on why they're requesting an extension includes just some soil corrections that are needed, and they just haven't got to this project yet. So the request that they are putting forward is to extend the resolution and the conditional use till October 31st of 2026. So I have included their written extension and then the resolution in your packets. So the resolution that would extend that to October 31st, 2026 is Resolution 2024-XYZ. So be happy to answer questions. The applicants may be on Zoom. I'm not entirely sure, but I can help answer any questions should you have them.
I guess the only question I had is it usually a 2-year extension when they're asking for that, or is that uncommon, or is that typical?
Since I've been with the city, this is the second extension request that we've had, and have had one project that sought a extension and then came back and then sought a second extension. So they wanted to seek that until 2026 just because there's just a lot of unknown factors on if they would be able to still construct it yet in 2025.
Yeah, that was
So
my question.
they didn't want to come back, extend it for 1 year and then come back another for a second time. So, we do have the applicants in attendance.
Okay. Yeah, because that was my question, is when do they plan to build that? In the spring of 25 or?
We're trying to build it next year.
Do you want to maybe go up to there, please?
Right.
Sorry for being late.
That's
I
right.
came from the cities,
That's
so
right.
traffic in the cities was not my friend.
Right.
But
Could you get your name first, please?
my name is Erin Lambert. I
Erin,
represent the applicant. I'm the attorney for the applicant. So they plan on building next year, but interest rates and a few issues with the site have caused us to delay until next year. We believe this is the best use for this site, but if next year we can't get everything together as fast as we would want, we're asking for an extension until 2026 just so we don't have to come back in front of you guys and ask for another extension and go through this whole process again. And so that's why we're just asking for 2026 in hopes that the interest rates and we can pull the funds enough and the interest rates do come down. So.
What are some of the factors that made you push off on the land?
From my understanding, it was mainly the interest rates, and then there's a few tests that my client did on the site for soil and just moving soil around, I believe sorry, I misspoke on moving soil. It was some soil testing that came back that they did not like. I can review my notes quickly on that. I was gonna review them before I presented, but there was that, and then just the funds to pull, the funds we calculated out based on my client calculated out based on a 3% interest rate, and then the interest rates jumped to the 7%. So now they're trying to grab those funds, as well as there's additional costs from those tests, and so that's why they're asking for that extension.
Thank you.
So if interest rates don't change, is that gonna be the same thing? Because,
Sorry, I interrupted you.
no, go ahead.
They're believing that the interest rates are gonna drop. If they do not drop, that's why they're also asking for the 2026 deadline, so that they can pull the additional funds to invest in this site. They just don't have the current funds at the moment with this site.
All right, any other questions or discussion?
I guess for us here,
Yeah.
is that, how common is that? I mean, is that where there's interest rates that we're holding extensions because of that? I mean, isn't that kind of stuff should be shored up before?
Yeah, I mean, from a city perspective, we won't weigh in on necessarily interest rates, but there's some other factors like the soil corrections and stuff, and based on when it was approved and then when it expires, and based on that they have done some plantings and they have gone through that process with the county and the state, so they have shown some skin in the game. So I think that's what we look at, is that they are faithfully making some attempts, and what they're requesting is, from a staff perspective, reasonable based on that and the conversations that we've had. But we don't base it on interest rates or things like that. Soil corrections and such, we can understand those things.
Any other questions or discussion or anything? All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve.
Yes,
Correct.
resolution 2024-XYZ, because I know everyone loves how I number these at the planning commission level.
I'll move to approve resolution 2024-XYZ, extending the CUP.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second for approving resolution 2024-XYZ. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. We'll move on to item 6B, proof of parking proposal for Premier Stone.
All right, thank you, Chair. So staff's been working with Premier Stone team on a proposed development. This site is located directly to the north of where Hanson and Company Woodworks has their new building currently under construction. So our code requires a minimum of 55 parking spaces for this development. We break that out for 3 stalls per 1,000 square feet for manufacturing and 1 stall per 300 square feet for office. The manufacturing space proposed is just under 15,000, with the office being just over 3,000. The applicant is proposing 30 parking stalls, so a reduction of 25 parking spaces. They have included in your packets shown that they can construct the minimum required, but they are asking the commission and then the council to approve the proof of parking plan to allow the reduction in parking spaces. Applicants are in attendance this evening, so they can help answer questions as well as staff here. So the request is a motion on that proof of parking and that reduction. Questions?
Do you guys want to come forward?
Good evening, Council. I'm Matt Knutson with Rice Companies and representing the applicant.
Is this building that you guys are putting out, is it gonna have like retail where there's
gonna be a lot of customers, or is this like appointments and visitation only?
Appointment and visitation only, yep.
Okay,
How many,
that was my only question.
yeah, how many staff would you guys have at this building?
Currently, they, you know, a little bit of it's unknown. Currently, they have 12. They're anticipating an increase to 20, and that's why they've put in for 30, you know, not knowing what that increase could be at the time. You know, future, they're hoping to hire more.
Yeah.
That's why we've shown the proof of parking where we can get up to the 55 stalls on the plan. But for the initial build, we'd like to construct it what they're anticipating for a move-in date of number of employee count.
So the initial one there is what's here, and then the proof is what they can build on?
I think it's, yeah, right
Yep,
down
so
here
you'll
and
see
then-
it labeled here, 8 spots on the south corner here, 12 spots over there. We go up over to the north, you got 8 more spots up here. So essentially, the darker color here is what they are proposing to construct as part of their development.
Is your proof of parking then just green space?
At the time, yeah, at the initial build, yes, it will be.
This was similar to what like Gooden did too, as well as.
Correct,
I think
yeah,
those
we've approved a few of these recently, including Hanson and Company and Gooden. And just some more background, we flagged this in one of our pre-development meetings. So we had a pre-development meeting with Premier Stone's team, and this was one of the items that we flagged. We haven't gone through the full entire site plan review in terms of like engineering, stormwater and that. But we are, you know, this is one of the items that we realized had to come forward tonight.
So with this plan here, it's not fully completed yet, or,
From a parking standpoint, yes.
okay, just not the
From the
building?
overall site plan and the stormwater and utilities and landscaping, that part is still being developed by our civil.
So would any of that encroach on your proof of parking?
Not for, we are not anticipating based on the calculations that, we have from SEH and the stormwater,
Okay,
and going out that, cause everything goes out that north side and that 15-inch that's out in Westwood Parkway
okay,
and goes over to the regional stormwater pond.
okay.
So as long as engineering comes back with the calculations that would allow this site to go to that pond, then no, we're not. So,
Yeah, so then if you needed to expand, you could to that
yes,
without any, okay.
correct.
That was
Without
one-
additional
yeah.
stormwater.
Yeah, that was where my question came in too, cause I see what the parking areas are showing there pretty much takes up the whole lot. There doesn't really leave a lot for
Yep.
ponding, but that makes sense if you're
Yep.
looking at taking it to different locations, so.
Yep.
I will also make a note too that Premier Stone also owns this vacant lot over here.
Okay.
What are we gonna do with that?
Keep going that way.
Yep. So they'll have to eventually come back and vacate any easements, but that's, you know, it from a formal process over there.
Well, then you kinda answered my next question, is what's your estimated growth for the business? Hopefully, pretty good, right?
So far, yeah, we're kind of limited by our size right now, but, yeah, we've got a lot of, good opportunities out there and some, good project managers, salespeople that are just, eager to get rolling, so.
Thanks.
Yep, looks good.
I have a question for Nate. If we approve as is, do they have to come back if they ever wanna expand? Okay.
If for some reason parking becomes a issue, like where folks are parking in grass or parking on the street or that, we would go to the applicant and then work through them with that and, you know, say that, you know, your parking is not being sufficiently met on site. And that's why with the proof of parking, they do demonstrate that they can construct it, but are just asking not to at this time.
Any other discussion, questions? If not, I think we're looking for a motion on this one as well, to approve the proof of parking plan for Premier Stone.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to, new business item 6C, conditional use permit for interstate bearings.
Yes, so coming forward tonight is a proposal from Interstate Bearings Company. They are proposing to construct a 16,500 square foot facility that's going to consist of warehousing and office space. The location of this is east of Dollar General and west of the Northland Plaza building. Interstate Bearing is a supply company focused on supplying the mining industry. Their warehouse will consist of about 3/4 of their total square footage, with the office spaces and then the small retail consisting of the remainder of the building. Minimum retail traffic is expected. I believe most of that traffic is appointment kind of based and from suppliers. So office warehousing within our highway commercial district is a conditional use. So that's why this is coming forward for you tonight. We are also working with the applicants on site plan application. Where we are at in that process is we delivered our review comments last week. So they're just working through some additional items tied to those review comments, mostly from a stormwater and engineering standpoint. Finding of fact has been prepared for this request, and then the applicants are seeking approval on that finding of fact and resolution this evening. A recommendation from the commission, I mean. One item that we did put on there and did discuss via email with the applicant is to just do some screening along the south side from the loading dock area. So we would anticipate that we'll work with the applicant on that through the site plan application. They have indicated that they do not have concerns on that, and we'll work with staff on that portion. So this is one that, honestly, from a staff perspective, kind of struggled to put conditions on. It's kind of a unique use in the sense of there is no outdoor storage, there's no outdoor display of merchandise or anything. It's entirely interior. So as far as putting conditions on there to protect the public and safety in that was really limited to just that one condition of trying to screen the loading dock area from the site to Highway 75. So that's the only condition you'll see in the drafted finding of fact and resolution. So this also does require public hearing. So any questions?
With this being on Elm Street East, and I understand that our project for road construction got delayed till next year, is this going to be in alignment with how we're going to redesign Elm Street?
Yeah, so we've been in discussion with the applicant on that. So our engineer team and that has communicated those, and we've lined that up with them, actually with the previous owner and with the current owner, Interstate Bearings. So they were actually aware of the project and that improvement prior to purchasing.
Okay.
Did they have a time of when they would break ground, or?
As soon as we get through the remaining site plan elements, it's just some engineering comments, really. Once they get past that, they could be breaking ground as soon as after a council meeting, sometime next week if everything is approved.
Any other initial discussion?
The only one that I was looking at was, since it's borders the Wobegon Trail, kind of like what we did with the storage system, having, I know we've got the trees and the barriers along the loading dock. Would it be appropriate to add anything additional beyond where the possible future expansion is to provide a more aesthetic view from the Wobegon Trail?
So I will say one of our comments in our site plan review was the total quantity of trees and shrubs was short of our requirements. So they will be adding more trees and shrubs. So we can direct them to add more on the south side if they're willing to put them over on that side. But besides that, it's just the screening area south of the dock, loading dock area that we have those vegetation and that.
How close is it even to Wobegon? I mean, where it sits on the site, do you have a topo?
Offhand, so there's at least there's a 20-foot easement that's shown here. I don't know offhand the distance from the future expansion to the trail itself.
So I don't
They're well within our setback requirements and such, though.
But Mark was saying, is that this, on this drawing here, that's right on the south side there,
Should be just right down.
yeah, but that's not it,
That's not-
that's not it labeled there.
No, it's not labeled.
Okay.
No. Yeah, so you'll see those infiltration basins, those are also intended to be their stormwater holding ponds and such there.
How much space do you have in between that infiltration basin and where the dock is? Do we know? Where they're gonna add that
Pretty
screen?
tight. Let's see here.
Yeah.
You got it fairly tight there.
Yeah,
5
it
feet or
is gonna be
something.
tight, cause the topography is not shown on this one, but, you know, as they grade it, they're gonna have to grade it where, that surmountable curb, you know, some of that drainage is gonna be filtered down in you can see the opening right here in the southwest corner, down here into there. So that's one of the things that we're trying to work through is the appropriate vegetation and appropriate screening mechanism,
Yeah,
given
because-
the, you know, space that is tight over there.
Well, right, cause tight, you still wanna be able to put something there that blocks it, but what could you put there that
Would it be,
wouldn't grow farther or bigger or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we've talked about fencing.
Fencing.
Right.
Yeah,
fencing,
just a
okay.
6-foot privacy fence, and then maybe if there's some room, you know, to break up that fence with some shrubbery or other mechanisms.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that, initial discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anybody has any comments? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Any other discussion among the commission? If not, then I believe we're looking for a motion then as well.
Yeah, so resolution 2024-IB.
I move to approve the conditional use permit as written.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024 IB. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Um,
Yeah.
All right, with that, we'll move on to old business, 7A, short-term rental ordinance.
All right. So after several months of conversation and discussion, this evening we are at call it the final draft here in the public hearing stage of our short-term rental discussion. So just to summarize, overall, the ordinance as it's drafted, what we have in there is 1, defining what a short-term rental is. 2, requiring an annual license and inspection for that short-term rental. No different than how our standard rental license operates. 3, requiring emergency contact information be posted in a visible location for that short-term rental. Lodging tax is gonna apply to any short-term rental within the city. We're also requiring short-term rentals in all residential districts, minus that multifamily district, to be owner-occupied. And then we add that definition of what an owner-occupied unit is. And then allowing short-term rentals in commercial districts as a permitted use. Of course, we're not allowing the use in our industrial district. And then defining the process for license suspension, revocations, denials, and fines for non-compliance. So after the last meeting, we did share the draft with our legal. So legal did come back with a couple comments and some suggestions. So we did add a section to amend, and that section is highlighted here in the memo. And that's to just be consistent with our process of how an applicant appeals a suspension or a revocation of their license. And then also just clearly expressly stating that properties within the appropriate zoning districts are required to be owner occupied, and listing those zoning districts individually within the ordinance. So Legal did have another comment. I'm just gonna make a quick note of this. So one other comment was just consider notifying or having a process where the applicant notifies folks in the neighborhood that they intend to operate a short-term rental ordinance. The kind of the purpose of that was just to provide a means for a direct line of communication from the intended operator to adjacent property owners. We didn't include that, but we, can still work with applicants to do that. The reason why we didn't include that is it's more appropriate probably with a conditional use where you have a required mailing that you send out. And then also the notices or the contacts are going to be posted in a visible location for the short-term rental. So with that, that's kind of the highlights and the summary on what I wanted to hit in a nutshell, what this ordinance is and what it accomplishes and how it's set up. So we have a public hearing. We also have a ordinance resolution, and then we have a summary publication. So, and I did reach out to a couple that had expressed interest, and I did share this draft in the packets with them. I have not heard anything back, but there was some dialogue before that in regards to some stuff. So that's where we're at. So those are the motions being requested, and happy to entertain questions.
Of the people that you talked with, where are they zoned?
Commercial.
So the difference, because I remember last time you guys brought up, I think Isabel, about the homes that are college rentals. If they switch, wasn't there something, they're commercial though, right? They're commercial?
Yeah, so if we're talking about the rentals in our downtown district, those are already commercial. So it would just operate like a commercial use and be permitted.
With a rental license, correct?
Yeah, so if they lose, so if they do not rent it anymore through our standard rental license, because you'll recall that we had interim uses for those, so they're allowed to continue with an interim use permit in that district. But once they cease that use and they do a short-term rental, then they lose that ability, because basically that interim use allows them to continue that grandfathered use in that district.
Yeah, so as soon as they switch, then.
But
Yep.
they're not
Changing
considered
use,
multifamily, right? I mean, just because they rent to 4 different technically family, it's not multifamily.
No, so I mean, our standard rental license and process defines kind of what's a habitable room and how many they can have and occupancy and things like that. And we did include that within the short-term rental in terms of occupancy standards and such.
And were most of our rentals to, the conditional use permit, they're not in the business district, correct?
The interim use permit, so the interim use permit, they are in our downtown
Okay.
district or our highway district. The only ones we have in our highway district are the ones directly across 75 by Kay's Kitchen
Okay.
in that area. So,
So if they did switch those over, they would have to be owner occupied?
so once they switch, so basically residential rental is considered a legal non-conforming use, but we allow it through an interim process and through our standard rental license. Once they do not do that anymore, that use of that rental, and they convert it to a commercial use, they cannot convert it back to a residential use, because now it's in compliance with what the city ordinance is, and that's the commercial uses.
And commercial does not have to be owner occupied, it's only residential.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Okay.
looking at when you were.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and we, if anyone is thinking of converting that, we always put that at the forefront, that once you convert it to a commercial use, you cannot convert it back, because you can't go from a illegal use to a legal use back to a illegal
And
use.
then, can Can you remind me how, for a short-term rental, how long is it
It's a
30
day-
days,
that's
right?
Up to 30.
20, I think we do, 27 days or,
27 or
so, yep, 27-day time period.
Just think you almost want
And we made sure to differentiate that it's not a bed or breakfast, resort, hotel, motel, things of that. Yep. And that's because 28 days is the shortest
Yep.
month or
Right.
whatever, so.
All right, any other additional discussion? Not, we'll open the public hearing for the short-term rental ordinance. All right.
Anybody here? Anybody want to?
All right, we'll close the public hearing for the short-term rental ordinance. Any other discussion from the commission? Questions? No?
I'll move
I
on.
just still like stuck on the fact why we need it in residential. I don't know, I could totally see it in commercial. If we didn't have, we do have people asking in the residential, or we do?
Well, so you'll recall that this discussion started from a council workshop. So,
Oh.
yep. So when the planning commission initially looked at it, we were more focused on commercial only kind of districts, but the council wanted to explore that use in the residential.
So is there anything that, for the city to, like, whoa, this was a bad idea? Like something happens, like, is it repeat, like violate, I mean, what, in
Well-
your opinion, would be like, maybe residential wasn't a good idea?
So, well, I think it goes back to some of our initial conversations where you can have those conflicts in residential. But given that we crafted this ordinance and we did have legal take a look and we tried to cover all of our bases with the fines and revocations of license, covering our bases with folks who are operating without a license. So we do have teeth and we do have the ability to enforce and apply. So I think we have enough teeth. It's just a matter of, there is the unknown, that you can have ordinances sometimes can be created or modified because of one bad apple. But from a staff perspective, we're confident that what we have is good. There's no ordinance that's gonna be perfect. There may be kinks, there may be things that we don't foresee, and maybe we'll have to make amendments in the future. But I'm confident just with our attorney reviewing it, with some staff discussions, the fact that we've discussed it for several months.
And there's been times too where we've looked at ordinances in the past for some of those unforeseen things, not saying this
If they
one.
come up later.
And then you kind of assess it and then change the language and.
And sometimes making a complex ordinance creates more issues or headaches or creates non-compliancy, because I'm not gonna go through all that. So part of it is to make it easy to digest as well, so people know what the ground rules are. So it's my 2 cents.
I move on the ordinance resolution 2024 STR.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. And we also need a motion, summary publication.
I'll move.
Motion and a second on that as well, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Item 7B, honeybee ordinance.
Every time we talk
Adams
about it,
ordinance?
it's always on the beat.
Done.
We'll keep this short and sweet. We didn't have a lot of comments after the last one. So just in summary, we're adding definitions to the city code. We're permitting beekeeping in all residential districts, subject to setbacks, densities of hives and number of colonies. Permits are not required. So that's it in a nutshell. It's only a 2-page ordinance amendment. So, but does trigger public hearing this evening, and then the ask is the motion on the ordinance resolution and summary publication.
HB for honeybee. Any discussion other than what we had already? No? If not, we'll open the public hearing for the honeybee ordinance amendment. All right, we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion from the commission?
I move to approve ordinance resolution 2024 HB.
You have a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? right, motion passes. And then.
Also move for summary publication.
I'll
Was
second.
it two of them on there? Bad, sorry. Thanks. All right, we have motion on summary publication as well.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
Adam, let's get some honey rolling.
yeah,
We already harvested.
ready for next year? All right, we'll move on then to 7C, general updates.
Yes, another short and sweet one here. So, general updates, the council did approve the Legion's request for the alternative building materials, and then the Knife River interim use permit was also approved last month. So, just a follow-up on those. And then going down to just other business and general development updates, I'll fly through these. The feed mill property off the south of the Wobegon Trail, they did demo the eastern post and frame structure of that building. I did drive by before this meeting, so that is completed on that side. They'll still be removing the western grain elevator. There's 2 grain elevators. That one will be removed. They'll seal everything up, and then they'll go through their plans over the winter. So we'll know more coming up here. And then floor to ceiling is working through a site plan approval that is going to be north of Granite City Gymnastics. Wedding event venue off Jade Road, they will be coming forward next month with a extension on their CUP. And then THC and zoning. So probably gonna have some conversation next month on that. You'll recall we briefly touched on the topic. I've since learned also that the way that we define like a retail shop is really the sale of any consumer goods to individuals. So just because you'll recall that we had talked about dispensaries versus like gas stations that may sell the product. Based on our definition of a retail shop, that is permitted in our downtown and in our highway district. So if we'd want to limit that, we'd have to modify that definition within our code to limit that use to a particular zoning district. So if you just wanted that use in the highway district, we'd have to do that. So I just want to have that discussion next month with the commission. So that's it.
All right, anything else?
Move to adjourn.
All right. Motion and second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, adjourned 6:38.
Recording stopped.